Today, cheating in the NFL looks like this.
He was going to pay off the officials.
This is the entire history of cheating in the NFL. It all started in the early 20th century. And for the first 20 years, it was like the Wild West. The Packers got banned for using college kids under fake names. The Cardinals stole a title using high schoolers. And coaches were basically making up rules on the fly. Well, that definitely changed in 1946, because that was the year the Cleveland Browns were formed by and named after football coach Paul Brown. And this guy wanted to win so badly, he basically invented modern football.
The timed 40-yard dash, the draw play, the pocket to protect his quarterback.
He was the first to put all his plays on paper and have players study them. He used film to study teams.
Even the face mask. And mind you, the Browns weren't even in the NFL at this point. They were in the AAFC, a rival organization, and the Browns were still tryharding the sport. He was trying so hard, in fact, that he didn't stop at inventing new plays. He also invented a ton of ways to cheat. He was sending fake reporters to spy on other practices and having scouts climb poles with binoculars. That's straight Cold War type behavior. But since he was going full tryhard mode to win, paranoia started to kick in too. So paranoid that he'd sweep the locker room for bugs, then give pre-game speeches where he'd half talk to players, half search for bugs again. By 1948, the league knew but barely batted an eye. Because the thing was, the Browns were unstoppable. Sure, some of it was probably from cheating, but Paul was also a football savant, winning every AAFC championship from 46 to 49, and when the NFL absorbed the AAFC in 1950, the Browns entered and immediately won that championship too. For a while, nobody could really touch him, but in 1956, Brown finally crossed the line, because that year was when he unveiled literal war technology.
The local guy, he had familiarity with tank helmets from World War II. They put a receiver in a football helmet.
Yeah, dude literally invented in-helmet comms 4 decades before the rest of the league finally caught up. And sure, there were some problems.
Started to have a problem with outside interference. The quarterback, he was getting signals from a taxi company.
You felt like an idiot with the thing because it was an antenna and you would have to turn like that. So I'd have to stand outside the huddle going like this, until he came in loud and clear.
But when it did work, it allowed the Browns to call audibles from the sideline and turn the field into a chessboard. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't long until other teams caught on. The Lions figured out the Browns had a sideline transmitter, and the Giants supposedly intercepted the signal with their own receiver. And in no time, Paul Brown got exposed. The league banned coach-to-QB devices all the way until 1994. So after a decade of running pro football like a CIA op, Paul Brown finally got slapped down. But he should get some recognition for the rule bending he was able to pull off. Because even though he got hit with the ban hammer, he basically opened Pandora's box. From that point on, every cheater in the league knew the door was wide open to push the rules until they broke. But it didn't just start with teams and coaches cheating. It started in 1961 during a Patriots-Texans game, when a Patriots fan pulled one of the most egregious acts of cheating of all time.
And watch to the right of your screen as a fan comes on the field to help out the Patriots. Davidson goes back to pass, throws in the end zone, the fan almost blocks it. It's ruled incomplete, and the Patriots win it 28-21.
That announcer has the eyesight of a block of wood, because every report about the incident says the fan successfully knocked down the pass, and by doing so, the Patriots won the game. If it starts in the 60s, at that point, you gotta wonder if cheating is just in their blood. But fans cheating was just the beginning. As the league cracked down on technology-based cheating with Paul Brown, teams had to find new ways to outsmart the rules. So they turned to substances, but not the kind you might be thinking, because in the 70s, Stickum became the new way to get an edge over other teams. What is Stickum, you may ask? Well, according to the website, it's a grip enhancer. I'm just gonna call it glue. And in the NFL, this glue was made to give you better grip on the ball. Some guys would put it on their socks or their helmets to use throughout the game. But the Raiders, they would basically shower themselves in it.
He did not need Stickum. A psychological thing with Freddie. He just thought he had to have it.
If you shook hands with him after the game, you'd have to follow him into the shower because you couldn't get away from him.
I can't even imagine what it was like using the bathroom with that. But for the Raiders, Stickum was just the tip of the iceberg. Because head coach Al Davis was like Paul Brown reincarnated.
Just win, baby.
Raider rule number 1, cheating is encouraged.
Yeah, this time around, the cheating wasn't just from the coach. He was getting players in on it too. And even though it started with Stickum, it got way out of control because they were accused of bugging other teams' locker rooms. Apparently, the Chargers head coach thought they had a bug in the light fixture. And even though it was never officially proven, Al Davis didn't exactly deny it, saying, "I can tell you one thing, the damn thing wasn't in the fixture." Another unproven but low-key proven claim was that they'd flood the stadium before games to make it harder for the other team to drive up the field. But that's nothing compared to the trainers turning the team pads into literal weapons.
George Anderson, who was our trainer, glazed plaster Paris around my arm, and then you tape over the top of that. So what I got here is a club.
Imagine getting hit with a baseball bat at full sprint. Well, that's basically what it was like playing the Raiders. And while a lot of teams were annoyed with it, nobody hated the dirty plays more than their greatest rival, the Steelers. See, in the 70s, the Raiders' just win baby mindset had gotten them into constant wars with the Steelers. The Raiders were tough guys using dirty tricks, while the Steelers were even tougher guys but played clean. Well, cleaner than the Raiders. Both teams would always clash in the playoffs. So by the time the 1976 AFC Championship rolled around, the Raiders' whole brand was bending rules. Pittsburgh was ready to put an end to it. And what's the best way to stop cheaters? Just cheat harder. So when the game started, the Raiders came in ready to dominate, but quickly realized something was off.
Right, he's got the swat. Oh, man, he threw the wrong way.
Players were slipping left and right. The sidelines were iced over, and the turf was like a ballroom dance floor. The field was frozen. And since the Raiders relied heavily on a deep passing game, that meant their receivers couldn't get their footing, and the Steelers took home the championship. Al Davis immediately accused the Steelers of deliberately freezing the field and demanded an investigation. And you won't believe what the NFL did. Nothing. Turns out if you spend half a decade cheating, nobody's buying it when you play the victim. So officially, the Steelers are innocent. But unofficially, the temperature in Pittsburgh that night before the game was 0 degrees. So if the ground crew accidentally overwatered the turf before putting the tarp on, let's just say the Raiders might have been onto something, but whether there was sabotage or not, it didn't matter. The Steelers won. And a few years later, the league banned stick 'em outright. And by 1984, the Raiders had packed up and moved to Los Angeles. But while their Wild West era came to a close, cheating was just getting started in the East. And in 1982, the Patriots had their first and arguably the most out-of-pocket cheating scandal ever. During a December game with the Dolphins, both teams were struggling to score, mainly because the entire field was iced out. But this time, they couldn't blame the Steelers. So since both teams could barely advance the ball, by the fourth quarter, it was still 0-0. And with just a Patriots field goal attempt left, it looked like it would end that way. So Pats coach Ron Meyer decided to call in a favor from a prison convict. No, seriously. See, stadium worker Mark Henderson was on work release from prison. His only job? Snowplow the field to clear the yard lines. And he would have done just that if the Pats coach didn't make him do a little extra.
Just a moment ago, the guy who handles the little brush machine came out on the field here to make a place for John Smith to spot the ball. There you see it, that slash mark at the right of your screen. The ball will be spotted at the 23-yard line. For Smith, the left-footed kicker, on the way. It's good!
That is actually criminal. And Dolphins head coach Don Shula agreed, calling it the most unfair act in NFL history. Even the commissioner himself called it unfair, but was basically like, oh well, sucks to suck. Because although the league officially banned the act after the game, they let the win stand. And for a while, that was kind of the NFL's thing. Shrug at any minor inconvenience, maybe write a new rule, but otherwise, keep it moving. Which brings us all the way to the late 90s, when the Denver Broncos upgraded cheating from field sabotage to straight-up fraud. See, in the late 90s, the Broncos were a powerhouse, but it had kind of come out of nowhere. In the 80s, QB John Elway had taken the team to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, but they lost every single time, including a particularly pathetic performance in 1989 where the Niners blew them out 55-10. And after that humiliation, they faded into mid-status for the next few years. Then suddenly, in 96, they went 13-3, then 12-4, and 14-2. People were definitely shocked, kind of brushed it off as just another NFL bust that boomed out for a few years. Well, that's what it looked like. But behind the scenes, the Broncos management had set up secret agreements and deferred payments to Elway and star running back Terrell Davis. In simpler terms, instead of salary cap space being eaten up by superstar salaries, the Broncos could use that extra room to stack players, keep veterans around, and basically make an unbeatable team. So while other teams were forced to cut and trade talent, the Broncos had a literal Avengers lineup. Good old-fashioned creative financing at work, but apparently not creative enough. Sure, they got away with it for a few years, but no one, not even an NFL team, can escape an accountant. And when the NFL's Management Council launched a review and found the undisclosed agreements, they lit them up. The franchise was fined $1 million and lost a third-round pick for payments to Elway and Terrell, and then another $950,000 and lost another third-round pick for the crime of violating the salary caps. Now that is how you punish cheaters. Unfortunately, it barely scared a single team, because while cheating in the 20th century definitely saw bad public reactions or bans for the NFL, that was as harsh as the punishments got. The Broncos scandal was more of an exception than the rule. rule. The Packers were the only team to be kicked out 80 years prior. The NFL even brought back radio-to-helmet communication. By the 21st century, Al Davis's motto didn't just apply to the Raiders anymore, so everyone just started full sending it. And Tampa Bay's quarterback Brad Johnson has the honor of kicking off this new era of cheating. Because right before the 2003 Super Bowl, Johnson admitted he paid $7,500 to have every single game ball, all 100 of them, scuffed before kickoff. Why? Because new balls are harder to grip, and Johnson wanted them broken in. And honestly, in a weird way, that's being fair to the other team too. Yeah, he technically still cheated, but if it doesn't actually give you an advantage, I'd argue that's just good sportsmanship. Which definitely cannot be said about this next case of cheating. Because in the 2005 Super Bowl, neither team actually cheated, just the referees. Yeah, that's what every team says. But this one was legit. I mean, just look at some of these calls.
Moves to his left, throws, caught, touchdown, but here comes a flag.
Interference, number 82. Offense.
Not convincing enough? Check out this play where Big Ben scored and the ref switched from signaling a dead ball to touchdown.
You take a look. Does the ball get to the goal line?
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
If that's still not enough, here's one play of the Steelers going offsides.
You're going to see him rush from the outside here.
Not only did the ref not make the offsides call on that play, but he actually made a separate call against the Seahawks for holding on that same play. Now, normally, this wouldn't be important enough to bring up as cheating, but 5 years later, Bill Levy, the referee, actually admitted it. It was a tough thing for me. I kicked 2 calls in the fourth quarter, and I impacted the game. It left me with a lot of sleepless nights. I think about it constantly. I'll go to my grave wishing that I'd been better. That's actually really sad. Since then, no other ref has come close to admitting it. Maybe it's because the league, maybe it's because they made their own bets. Either way, this was the last time a ref officially admitted to cheating, but it was just the beginning of cheating in the 2000s. Because in 2005, Sean Merriman absolutely exploded onto the scene in the NFL. He put up 10 sacks in 15 games, recorded 57 tackles, and was so cold that he literally got nicknamed Lights Out. But recognition like that doesn't come without a price. And soon enough, the NFL caught him using steroids.
And so I got tested 2 months before the season started, or a month and a half before the season started. So it takes like 6 to 8 weeks before sometime you get your results back. But I actually popped. I got suspended during the off season. I took my suspension during the season. At no point in time did I ever test positive after that. It was that particular time during the off season of the supplements I was taking, and it was on the ban list. And I just didn't know. And I got suspended for something that was over the counter. Like you can go to any vitamin shop or whatever, and what happened was that they put it on the list from the previous year, wasn't there. And so me being me, I didn't look at anything. So when the PA sends out this new thing before, and it was on there, but I just balled it up and put it in my locker because I was like, I'm not taking anything different.
I don't know about all that, man. Those arms don't exactly scream, I'm just taking vitamin B. And the NFL thought the same thing, so they suspended Merriman for 4 games. Funnily enough, though, he still finished the year with those monster stats, and fans still voted him into the Pro Bowl, which the NFL did not like.
The fact that I made the Pro Bowl and then was up like top 3 finishing defensive player of the year, they made that rule where you can't go to the postseason if you get suspended.
Honestly, if you're so good on roids that the league's got to make a rule to slow you down, that's kind of a flex. But at least 2006 only saw 1 player cheating. In 2007, 2 entire franchises got called out. But one was a little more famous than the other because, yet again, it involved the Patriots. And this time, it wasn't some low-key funny thing like using a snowplow. Nah. In week 1 of 2007, they were caught by the Jets head coach Eric Mangini filming the Jets signals from the sideline.
But you had to go to your owner or GM and say, this is what they're doing.
Yeah, it was. I was coaching the game, so it's not like I was going to run over the sideline and say, "Hey, don't do this."
So you go to your superiors and say, "This is what New England's doing."
If it happens, and you couldn't even predict whether or not it was going to happen or not at our place. It was just, if this happens, shut it down.
Obviously, when Roger Goodell heard about this, he was not happy. So he slapped Belichick with a $500,000 fine, hit the franchise with another $250,000, and stripped the rights to a first-round draft pick in 2008. Belichick played stupid at first, but in a CBS interview, he was reminded of something kinda important. Goodell had told all the owners that filming an opposing team would result in severe punishment. And when further pressed on it, Belichick finally cracked.
You had gotten that memo. I mean, you couldn't be any more clearer than 2006.
I made a mistake. I was wrong. I was wrong.
You flat out cheated. What do you say to those people?
What I said to you. I told you the truth.
Throw really lost $500K and just shrugged it off. But to make it even crazier, as the season went on, evidence eventually came out that showed the Pats filming games dated all the way back to 2000. But despite that, Goodell shrugged it off. Belichick shrugged it off. The icing on the cake? During the very same 2007, the Patriots had the nerve to accuse the Colts of cheating. Yeah, that's an unreal pivot move. But it worked. The media switched to covering the Colts for allegedly pumping fake crowd noises into the RCA Dome. And while that sounds weird, just listen to this weird as hell echo from the stands.
And Moss open on the slant.
CBS tried saying it was a broadcasting glitch, but after all I've seen making this video, there's literally not a chance in hell I'm buying that. The NFL probably didn't even buy it, but after dealing with Spygate all season, they just let it slide. And after that monstrous scandal, they probably let a bunch of other stuff slide too. I mean, the only sort of notable thing that happened between 2007 and 2012 was the Giants being accused of fake injuries. Because during a game against the Rams were using their no-huddle offense. So to save a timeout, Deion Grant and Jaquan Williams came in to save the day.
And the Giants have a couple players down.
Oh, wait, we had two guys go down and fake injuries.
Impressive recovery from Grant to come back on the same play. But luckily for them, they got off with a slap on the wrist. The NFL released a memo to all NFL teams threatening punishment against players who fake injuries. And even though the other teams all accepted the memo, they had to know who it was really about. Those Giants players had worse acting than NBA flops. But while they were auditioning for the CW, the Saints were getting ready to drop the next big scandal of the century. But this time, Roger Goodell didn't let the team off the hook like the Patriots. He came down with the wrath of God. Because the Saints were caught running a bounty program. If you don't know what that is, it's basically where players tossed in cash into a pot and payouts were handed out for big hits on the opposing team. But I'm talking huge hits, like life-threatening hits. I mean, the Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams couldn't have put it any better.
That comes from fear. This is how you get respect in this league. Single one of you, before you get off the pile, affect the head. We want him running sideways. We want his head sideways.
Shockingly, none of this audio came to life for years. And to be fair, if you're one of the guys taking in extra money, why would you ever report it? But the thing about keeping a system like that secret is that it only works if nobody talks. And someone always talks. By 2012, a whistleblower walked into the NFL offices with proof. Notes, testimony, payout structure, and even specific games where it was used. And of course, that included the infamous Saints-Viking NFC Championship, because Brett Favre was getting hit like a punching bag.
Third catch for Barry, and now they hand it to Percy Harvin. And Brett Favre again took another hit.
And you're going to see him come in late, right? As Favre lets go of the ball and a clean hit. You're right, Joe. They've gotten some knockdowns on Brett Favre. And you see Hargrove, he comes right inside. And I think that was a bad call. You know, I mean, he's in contact with Favre, and he's just making a tackle at the end of the play.
You could practically feel that last one. And with that, the NFL also felt they had seen enough and absolutely nuked the team. The team was fined $500,000. They lost 2 second-round draft picks. Head coach Sean Payton was banned for the whole season. GM Mickey Loomis was banned half the season. And Greg Williams was suspended indefinitely. In 1 year, the Saints went from a 13-3 record to just 7-9. So clearly, for once, the punishment worked. How satisfying. Well, probably not as satisfying as seeing Ray Lewis recover from an injury just in time for the Super Bowl. The only downside is that he had to cheat to do it, because tearing your tricep is no joke.
Next play, I'm watching his eyes. I say, jump, Lou. Put your hands up. Knock the ball down. Pick it. I do none of the above. He throws the ball. I put my hands up in the air. The moment I come down, I get on the line of helmet and I hear my triceps snapping.
If you've ever torn a muscle, you know how bad that hurts. Now imagine playing 5 more snaps with one, because that's exactly what Ray did.
Hand it off. Tanner. And a good pickup on first down, 7 yards.
Dude's arm is literally limp, and he still makes the play. What an absolute animal. But continuing the play is what really screwed him, or should have screwed him. Because even with surgery, kind of injury would take 5 months minimum to recover from. But this was week 6, and the Ravens ended up making it to the Super Bowl. So he didn't have 5 months. That's when Deer Antler came into play. Wait, what? Yeah, Ray went on some science-based witchcraft to recover. See, a report linked him to using something called Deer Antler Spray, a supplement made from deer velvet that can contains a banned super strength growth hormone, and this would explain why he recovered just in time for the Super Bowl. Obviously, Ray denied it and brushed it off as defamation, and luckily for him, the NFL let him off the hook too. But you gotta wonder, were his genetics just completely goated, or was he out here huffing deer bones? Well, the world may never know. But 2013 held one incident that we all knew was cheating, because it really doesn't get more obvious than the Mike Tomlin play.
There, and Tomlin is essentially on the field here.
But unlike everyone else on this list, Mike actually owned up to it.
My descriptions of my actions on that play are a lot of things: embarrassing, inexcusable, illegal, a blunder, being many of the things that I use to describe it.
That's probably how everyone also describes it, but honestly, respect to him for taking accountability. I mean, he 100% deserved the $100,000 fine that he got, but the apology is a nice touch. See, I wasn't kidding when I said everyone started cheating this century, and it hasn't slowed down since Mike Tomlin. If anything, Tomlin was just the first domino of a brand new era, because from 2013 to 2015, there were more scandals and allegations flying around than there were for almost all of the 20th century. And first, we're going back to the Seahawks. Except this time, they weren't the victims, they were the culprits. Because for 3 straight years, during their championship window, players were getting caught for more substance abuse problems than Jesse Pinkman. Richard Sherman tested positive for Adderall, but got his suspension overturned. Alan Barber was removed from the roster for performance-enhancing drugs. And Bruce Irvin, Brandon Browner, John Moffitt, Winston Guy, and Vaya Tatua all received 4-game suspensions after testing positive for even more PEDs. They already had beast mode on their team. They could have won games without the drugs. Oh, right, maybe the PEDs were valid then. But despite one of the worst Super Bowl losses ever, at least the Seahawks got to watch their opponents go down in flames. Just when you thought the Patriots had gone to rehab for cheating, they came back in 2015 with a little event called Deflategate. But it actually started before their Super Bowl win. See, in the AFC Championship earlier that year, Colts linebacker DeQuil Jackson picked off Tom Brady and handed the ball off to a staffer. And by sheer luck, the staffer realized something big. The ball was way softer than it was supposed to be. So at halftime, the officials tested all game balls and found that they were far under the legally required 12.5 PSI. And when you're playing in wet conditions, that makes the ball easier to grip, catch, and throw. Obviously, the NFL launched a full investigation that lasted all the way through their Super Bowl win and finished in May with the Wells Report. And unless you want to scroll through this 300-page thing yourself, I'll just drop the most important part. It was deemed more probable than not that the Patriots staff deliberately deflated the balls. Brady and Belichick both denied knowing, but avoiding the problem wouldn't work this time. The NFL suspended Brady for 4 games, fined the Patriots a whopping $1 million, and they lost their 4th-round draft pick for 2 years in a row. While Tom Brady was sitting in the locker room for Deflategate, Peyton Manning was fighting off allegations of drug use.
Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning also addressed a documentary last month that linked him to human growth hormone, a performance-enhancing drug that's banned by the NFL.
Huh? That's random. Well, not that random. See, back in 2009, this happened to Manning.
It's the hit there, Philip Daniels going up high on him around his neck.
And to be honest, if there was ever a reason to use drugs, that injury would be the best one. Then in 2015, the Al Jazeera documentary dropped and claimed that he had used HGH to recover faster. But Peyton was not having it. Not only did he deny the allegations, but he also threatened to sue Charles Sly, the maker of the documentary. And wouldn't you know it, the very next day, Charles walked back on his statements.
I am recanting any such statements, and there is no truth to any statement of mine that Al Jazeera plans to air.
I'm no detective, but it seems pretty clear that Charles was reading off a paper, most likely to save himself from being sued into oblivion. So after that, the news surrounding Manning faded pretty quickly, and it went to the way of Ray Lewis. Just not enough to make him guilty, but not enough to prove him innocent. But while Manning dodged a bullet of his life, Jerry Rice ran straight towards the gun. And if you don't know this, it might ruin your view of him. You have been warned.
This might be a little illegal, guys. I just put a little spray, a little stick on them, you know, just to make sure that texture is a little sticky.
Okay, obviously not the biggest news of the century. Even without Stickum, he'd probably still be the GOAT. Still, it does make you wonder how many he would have dropped without it. Well, probably not as many times as teams that had to face the Falcons in the 2010s. Because in 2013 and 2014, the Falcons were accused of pumping fake crowd noises into their stadiums. Their response? Nothing. They just kind of prayed the allegations would go away like they did with Manning. Unfortunately for them, they did not. And in 2015, they were actually caught and handed a $350,000 fine, in addition to losing their 5th-round draft pick. You know the Colts were wiping sweat off their faces with that one. But after the Falcons got caught, cheating headlines finally went quiet for a few years. Not because teams suddenly started going to church every day, but because Goodell clearly proved that you can get punished for team-wide scandals. So most of the dirt shifted to just one unbeatable classic area: PEDs. Roids are so old school by this point, it's almost wholesome that players and teams went back to the classics. The first notable case was when Texans linebacker Brian Cushing got caught in 2010, then again in 2017. But that surprised absolutely no one.
You big fat. That's a somebody. That's a look at this, man. I promise you. You hear me?
I don't know if roids make your forehead strong too, but I've never seen that kind of rage out of a natty player. Dude took an unpredicted headbutt from a 300-pound guy like he got hit with a pillow. But he wasn't the only one getting caught taking rage juice. In 2019, Cardinals corner Patrick Peterson got nailed with a 6-game PED suspension. And 2 years later, same team, same punishment. But this time it was DeAndre Hopkins sitting on the bench. And finally, in 2024, Detroit's wide receiver Jameson Williams was given a 2-game suspension for failing a PED test. Cheating in the NFL will never go away. It'll just keep evolving. We've gone from the Broncos fraud of the 90s, to World War II tech being used on the field, to the Raiders weaponizing their pads in the 70s, and the Patriots cheating their way through a whole century. Every generation finds a new way to bend the rules until they break, or just breaks them right off the bat. But as the league has gotten stricter and stricter, finding loopholes has become harder and harder. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's gotten to the point where cheating isn't even about actual illegal activities anymore. Now fans debate whether legal plays like the tush push become illegal, or debate the ethics of Tom Brady being an owner and broadcaster. My question is, who cares? Instead of making a play illegal, maybe get creative? Bring in some college kids, bring in some new tech, bring in some stick'em. Yeah, cheating is never good, but it at least makes the game interesting.